Welcome to Chromatic Counsel, the podcast where we dive into the journey of attorneys, their successes, challenges, and of course, their go-to wardrobe colors. I'm your host, Gary Heaps, and I am a color and body language contributor. I help attorneys and other professionals make powerful first impressions, build confidence, and master the art of nonverbal communication. So we have a great show lined up for you today. Today, my guest is Ashley Wright Felix. And with over 20 years of experience spanning law, advocacy, pageantry, we have in common runway modeling and the performing arts. Ashley's transformed her wealth of knowledge into a purpose-driven mission. And that is helping women cultivate unshakable confidence, polished presence, and authentic feminine power. So she is a former title holder, pageant coach, and judge. Ashley's created a faith-based full service coaching and consulting agency designed to equip ambitious, purpose-driven queens and professionals with the tools to shine both on stage and in life. So Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Carrie, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. And I am excited to have you as well. I know we've met in person before at one of the events, and we've talked a little bit about pageantry and law. And I would love for you to share with the listeners just a little bit more about your professional journey and what inspired you initially to pursue a career in law.
Sure. So originally, it's so funny. I didn't really have an interest in law. I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
um, I wanted to be a doctor. And so I was originally a biology major and I got weeded out with my first semester in chemistry. But in terms of how I kind of developed that interest in law, it started in high school. And I didn't really know that I was developing an interest until I actually sat down and kind of thought about it and started my career as a prosecutor. So I went to high school in a high crime area. I didn't grow up in the area, but I went to a high school in a high crime area, and I got a chance to really see firsthand how sort of that impacted the resources that we received as students at the school. So it really made me want to work in criminal law and really made me want to be in a position where I could protect our communities. And so that's kind of how I started out in terms of the law, in that law enforcement capacity as a prosecutor. And that kind of gave me the trial experience. It taught me the importance of fairness, of preparation. And I later then transitioned into civil litigation, which is where I am now. But in terms of my why, for why I pursued a career in the law, it's always been about service and advocacy. And that started out as a prosecutor.
and I always love to find out why people choose the profession. I find there's such a wide variety, but usually it always stems to somebody's had a personal experience and it really
Yeah.
moved them to the point where they're like, this is what I'm going to do. So thank you for sharing that. Now, there's a lot of new attorneys that listen to our show. Do you have, somebody just graduating from law school? What are two key pieces of advice that you would give them?
I would say, I think, when you're graduating from law school, you're in such a pivotal moment of your life. You've graduated from law school. Now you're thinking about taking the bar. You're thinking about what type of connections do I need to make? Where am I going to get my first job? There's so many things that kind of are at the forefront of your mind. But I would say two pieces of advice. Number one would be protect your reputation at all costs. And the reason why I say this is because your reputation, particularly as an attorney, is your most valuable asset. I mean, it can take years to build a reputation and a split second to destroy it. I know that, full well in terms of just colleagues and people sort of that I know in the profession. And so I say it's always really important to just be mindful of how you're presenting yourself to others because first impressions matter. And in our profession, they tend to stick. And in terms of a second piece of advice, I would say maybe always stay a student of the law. I think this one's even more important than the first, and what I mean by that is making sure that you're constantly asking questions, making sure that you're finding mentors, and that you never stop learning. Even for myself at 10 years of practice this year, can't believe it's been 10 years, but at 10 years of practice this year, I'm still open to learning. I recognize that there's still so much more to learn. And the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. So those would be sort of my two pieces of advice for new attorneys that are just graduating from law school and trying to kind of break into this profession.
Wonderful. And as somebody who teaches CLE, I couldn't agree with you more on always be learning, obviously. Now you're a big advocate of leadership roles, with the bar and many voluntary bar associations, that's actually where we initially met. How would you
Yes.
encourage those newer attorneys just to get involved more? Like maybe they're joining, you have to join the bar, obviously in Florida, but like a voluntary
Mhm.
bar, maybe
Yes.
they're thinking about joining one of those and they're just joining, but they're not really getting involved. They're not really participating. How would you encourage them to get involved more?
Well, I would say encouraging, I would say to show up consistently. So, voluntary bar associations, whether you believe it or not, voluntary bar associations really make that, it's what makes our profession fun. It's what makes our profession exciting. It's about, sort of creating those connections, networking, creating those relationships. You really get your start in voluntary bar associations. When you're a new attorney, you don't really have a lot of experience in terms of practicing law. And so when you're trying to sort of build your reputation, a lot of times people are thinking about, your work ethic and what they've seen based on how you've worked, maybe on a project with them in a bar association or how you presented yourself at a meeting. So I say that to say, in order to involve yourself in leadership, bar associations, show up consistently, attend events, volunteer for tasks, build relationships. Right now, and I guess I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I am one of the founders of the Black Women Lawyers Association of Central Florida. And I have made it my mission to really bring on young attorneys, new attorneys, fresh out of the bar, to kind of put them in leadership roles as committee chairs, because I think it's a great way for them to kind of build those skills, and kind of really prove themselves in terms of being present, being dependable, and showing that they're easy to work with because people want to work with people that they like. So that's how I would encourage new attorneys.
Absolutely. Wonderful advice. And, you also you're the founder of Worthy of the Crown Pageant Coaching. And that's kind of, for
Yeah.
those who are tuning in, Ashley and I both have come from the pageant industry. So how do you feel like with the, your separate company that you have, how has that affected or has it affected how you practice law?
It absolutely has, Carrie. I'll say that in terms of what I teach as a coach through my consulting agency, Worthy of the Crown Pageant Coaching, we teach presence, we teach communication, we teach poise, we teach all of these things under pressure, right? And all of these are skills that I use now as a trial attorney in court and in motion practice. So
Mhm.
I coach my girls to really think on their feet critically. So not just kind of coming up with an answer, but coming up with a critical answer, right? And sort of getting a group of individuals, in their case, pageant judges, to really connect the dots in their favor. And so I do the same in my practice every day. And I think that that's what really makes not only my pageant, consulting agency very unique, but also my practice, and that I have sort of that background. And so I would say that being the founder of Worthy of the Crown Pageant Coaching has absolutely affected my law practice in a very great way.
Good. And it's the reason I asked that question too, Ashley, for those who are listening right now too, is that like even with my body language academy, the boot camp that I have for attorneys, I always tell them, I did a post about this on Instagram recently about what are the correlations between pageantry and law. And like after people read it, they were like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I
Yes.
get it. Because when they first saw it, they're like, what? No way. And I'm like, well, hear me out.
Like those can't go.
I know, right? But I did just a little food for thought for everybody who's listening is that I have in my boot camp for the body language boot camp, I have a section on face reading. And I did a little handout for, and hopefully I'm saying it correctly, but I always get corrected, but voir dire, for the process
Mm-hmm.
of voir dire, asking questions. And I had an attorney who said to me, this is where really where people, there's two things, it's picking the right ones and asking the right questions. And I'm like, I
Yes.
got a ton of questions. I'm a pageant judge. I've got a ton of questions. So I actually formulated it. I took my pageant questions as a judge that I've
Wow.
asked over the years and I have reformatted them for voir dire. So
Wow.
that, and when I sent it to him and I said, hey, I just wanted to let you know I added this to my boot camp because he's not a member, but he was like, oh my gosh, he said, this is hugely helpful. And he said, I'm
Yes.
going to take this with me. And I'm like, I'm glad. And, you know, he wrote up like a little testimonial that I could use for the site. Because again, I think a lot of people think those two things don't go together, but it's presentation, it's talking to
Mm-hmm.
people, it's asking questions and answering. So there's
Yeah.
so many correlations there. There really
Yes.
is. Um, and I know, so obviously with you, we've talked a little bit about your Crown Pageant coaching. And I want to ask you, it seems that a lot of attorneys, you know, they struggle with balance. You've got
Oh,
your
yes.
law firm, you've got the pageant coaching, you have all these things going on. Have you found having that side hustle has just been like, has it helped you a little bit with that time management, or just kind of sorting out your schedule a little bit more? Do you feel like it's given you more balance? Is it, or like, do you have a tip for time management for those attorneys who are like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, I've got so much going on, you know?
Oh, I don't know if I'm the best person for that. I would say, Carrie, in all candor, you know, I think for me, what my coaching business has done for me is it has sort of given me joy and creativity outside of just billable hours, client emails. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the practice of law. I love the profession. It is a very noble profession.
Mhm.
But law can be all consuming, right? I mean, it can really be all consuming, and it could really take a large portion of your time, especially if you have, a lot of clients, if you're at a firm that is, very high paced, very client driven, all great things. And so for me, I find that my business kind of helps me sort of bring back in that creativity,
Mhm.
of coaching and judging and mentoring. It really keeps me grounded, and I think it keeps me energized for the practice
Mhm.
of law. So I'm really looking forward to continuing to expand my business, because I feel that as my business expands, so does my joy and my love for the practice of law, because I have that balance with the two.
Yeah. So it's almost like a stress reliever for you. It's something you can
Yeah.
do to be like, oh, like kind of like I love kickboxing, and kickboxing is
Mm-hmm.
something I can do, you know, and just kind of let off some steam and have a fun time and get some exercise. So, and I love that I see so many more attorneys, Ashley, that are doing this. There, and I don't know if you were connected with the same people on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
but Robert Scarvone, who was going to
Okay.
be on the show, I think he's going to be on the show in the future. He's had a lot going on, but he just recently started a side hustle. He went into personal training. And
Wow.
I didn't know,
See?
I think he competed for some fitness competitions or something, which I didn't know. And he kind of put that out there on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and that's when I reached out to him. I said, I would love to have you on my show to talk about this, because
Yes.
I think it's also important for attorneys to realize that like you said, law doesn't have to be all consuming. You can
Mhm.
have other interests, you can do other things. That's okay. You know, and if anything is going to help you, probably, you know, again, from that, you know, just sort of managing your time and taking a break and doing something that you really, really love to do.
You really
So
love.
yeah, I
And
just,
it
like I
doesn't always
said,
have to be like, I also feel that sometimes, especially younger attorneys, and even some older ones too, we forget that law may be what we do, right? But that's
mhm,
not just who we are. I mean, that's just sort of, for me, that's just sort of one drop in the hat, me
mhm,
being an attorney and being a legal professional. There's so many other facets, of me,
mhm.
and things that I really enjoy and things that I love. And so I think that that's what really kind of really helps you to kind of think about your law practice, in a very holistic way. That it's not just me, being a lawyer, being an advocate, but it's also about the importance of recognizing the skills and how it's intertwine.
Yeah. And, you know, and again, I think sometimes there's a stigma with it as well. And I know that a general practitioner that I had, a doctor many years ago, well, I shouldn't say many years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, somebody had saw her at it was either a get together or something within the community, like almost like a farmer's market type setup. And she had a table thing that she had
Okay.
going on, and she was selling clothing. And I remember a lot of people, when they saw her there, they were really like, what do you do? Like, they were just kind of like taken aback, like, you're my doctor. Why are you doing this? And like she said, this is my stress relief. she said, I'm not doing this for the money. I do make money
Yeah.
with it, but this is something I can do with my kids. It's a stress relief thing. So again, I just think sometimes there's a stigma around, like, people
Hmm.
think like, oh, I'm an attorney, I can't do anything else. And actually you can, it's okay. So I
Yes,
want to thank you
can.
for, yeah, for
Mhm.
just sharing that. And, obviously to work, the show's called Chromatic Counsel, as you well know. So I love to ask all of my
Yeah.
guests, are there particular colors or wardrobe pieces? Do you have like a lucky go-to outfit that you always like to wear to court, or like even on camera? Like, are there certain colors that you're like, oh my gosh, I just love, I always win when I wear green? Or do you have any specific colors that you wanted to kind of share with everybody that you
Yeah.
like?
Ooh. Yes, Carrie. I would say so. I am really drawn to earth tones like
Mhm,
yellows, mustards. I
mhm,
think those really complement my skin tone. They kind of give me that warm, vibrant energy. My
mhm,
mother, rest in peace to her, she really was she was an earth tone girl too. And she really loved kind of like browns and tans. And it really looked great on her. And so I've kind of picked that up, that type of energy. So I really love those earth tones. In terms of what I like to wear that makes me feel very confident and very poised. I love like structured blazers, right? I'm a very modern, like abstract pattern type of, I mean, think about angled, asymmetrical lines. I like kind of abstract designs. I'm very different when it comes to wardrobe. I don't think, I kind of step outside the box a little bit in terms of, what I may wear to, a networking event or some type of in some type of legal setting, maybe with a client meeting. you
mhm,
know, I do have the gray suits, I have the black suits, I have the brown suits, I have but for me, I think I don't see law as just a sort of cookie cutter, one thing fits all. I kind of
mhm,
like to use that as an opportunity to kind of express my personality and, very, very vibrant, bright energy. And it
mhm.
makes me feel polished and creative. So yeah, earth tones, yellows, mustards, asymmetrical designs, and angles. That's me.
Wonderful.
All
Yeah.
day.
And I love earth tones too. I'm a spring, but there's still a certain amount of earth tones that I have in my palette that I just love to wear.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. And before we wrap up, I would love for you to share with us a little bit more, anything you have coming up. Your new voluntary bar. I would love for you to talk about that if you're looking for new members, but just anything you'd like to share in closing.
Awesome. Yes, 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 yes. So much. So I will say that in terms of my pageant coaching business, Worthy of the Crown, I'm actually expanding beyond pageantry, right? I'm like,
Oh,
woo. So now I'm in the process of expanding to public speaking and confidence coaching. So I'm kind of taking that Worthy of the Crown pageant coaching and taking that to just Worthy of the Crown coaching. The reason why I have decided to do this is because over the years I've had many people inside and outside of the legal field, both women and men, right,
mhm,
that will come to me to ask for help with speaking more confidently, commanding a room, how to present themselves with more poise. And so I realized that those particular skills are not just for pageant stages. They're essential
mhm,
for job interviews, leadership roles, courtroom advocacy, bar associations, really any space where you want to make an impact, right? Any space where you want to show up and show out and kind of present your best self. So really helping people find their voice and own their presence I would say is deeply rewarding for me. And so I'm really excited to kind of bring that Worthy of the Crown coaching to a broader audience. In terms of Black Women Lawyers Association of Central Florida, as I mentioned before, I am a founder of the Black Women Lawyers Association of Central Florida. We call it BWLACF for short. And this nonprofit organization was just recently started this year. It's been in the works for a year or so, and we finally launched. We officially launched in June of this year. And the organization is really committed to addressing the unique challenges faced by Black women, attorneys, and law students. How do we do that? We do that through mentorship, sponsorship, professional development, and advocacy. We serve legal professionals and community partners because we have an opportunity for community partners to become members of our organization, those who are not in the legal profession. but we serve our constituents over and across 7 counties, right? So not just Orange, not just Osceola in Orlando, but we also serve Orange, Osceola, Seminole, Lake, Brevard, Polk, and Volusia counties. So it's really an incredible organization. It's incredibly fulfilling to see the community that we're building and supporting our growth. And so really excited about those 2 things that I have coming and that are already in the works.
Awesome. And I think I saw just recently on LinkedIn, you were doing I think you were speaking at one of maybe it was this particular bar association, but you were doing the pageant walk, like teaching the attorneys the
Yes.
pageant walk. I
Yes, that
love
was for the
it.
Florida
I
Bar.
love it. There
Teaching
you go.
lawyers how to navigate. We did a professionalism showcase, and that was
Awesome.
over, I mean, lawyers from all over the state. And I coached them in sort of how to kind of maintain that confidence, that poise um, on stage, and how to present sort of professionalism in different settings. And we did that in a stage. It was over 40 attorneys that we called profilers. They were models,
Mhm.
and they got up on the stage and they showed us how to present, on stage in professional settings with professional clothing. It was absolutely amazing.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm sure everybody had a great time with that. And just very different from what, as you know, like coming to the events, there's so much CLE, there's so many,
Yes.
speakers and different things, and it's just something different. And I just love that you did that you shared it. I was like, I got such a kick out of that when I saw it. I was like, oh my gosh, I'll bet that was such a fun class.
Yes.
So
Teaching lawyers to walk a runway. Lots of
yeah.
fun.
Absolutely. Well, Ashley, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And I also want to make sure everybody knows we have in the show links or in the show notes below all of the links for Ashley's website and also for the voluntary bar. So you can click on any of those links and learn a little bit more about what she's doing and if you want to work with her directly. But I want to, again, it was absolute pleasure having you on the show. And I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Carrie, for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. That is a wrap for today's episode of Chromatic Counsel. And if you are interested in being a guest on the show, there is a link in the show notes. So just fill that out and that will come directly to me so you can be considered as a guest. I interview any attorneys or anyone who works within the legal profession. And as you can see, we keep a very casual conversation, but we love for you to share tips for everyone else within the industry. And again, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you can tune in next time. And as always, I'm wishing you continued success.